I live on a 200-acre ranch about 30 minutes outside town, nestled between rolling hills and a private spring-fed lake that came with the land. I keep a few horses, a bunch of cows, and recently, one massive luxury item I'd always dreamed of owning, a 42-foot yacht. Most folks said I was crazy to buy a yacht with no ocean nearby, but I didn't care. I had the money, the lake, and the guts to enjoy it. This wasn't your average fishing boat. It was a full-blown mini-yacht, polished teakwood deck, 2 bedrooms below, stainless steel rails, built-in speakers, and even a wine fridge. It sat like royalty in the middle of my lake, tied to a private floating dock I built myself. No permits needed out here, or so I thought. But then the HOA president of the neighborhood across the road, Karen Sullivan, age 57, with thin gray-streaked hair always pulled into a judgmental bun, decided my yacht was bringing down the character of the community. Mind you, my property isn't even in their HOA. But she still took it upon herself to complain every time she passed by. First, she sent passive-aggressive letters. Then came the emails. When I ignored those, she started taking pictures from the road, acting like I was committing some criminal act. I laughed it off until last Friday. I was sipping lemonade on the top deck of my yacht, enjoying the sunset and minding my business, when I heard sirens. 2 county sheriff cruisers rolled up the gravel drive and parked near my barn. One of the deputies stepped out and asked if I was the individual operating an illegal marina. I nearly spit out my drink. Karen stood across the road with arms crossed, a smug smirk on her face like she'd finally won. Apparently, she told them I was running an unlicensed commercial boat rental business and dumping waste into the water. I showed the cops my deed, my clean water inspection results, and told them I owned the lake. The deputies laughed it off after 10 minutes, but Karen didn't. She shouted, "This isn't over," and stomped back to her side of the fence. Little did she know, she had just triggered the craziest revenge plan I'd ever pulled. I couldn't sleep that night, not because I was mad, but because I was inspired. Karen had pushed the wrong button. I had no interest in her HOA, her complaints, or her neighborhood gossip before. But now, she'd made it personal. I sat at my desk in the ranch office, sipping bourbon, scrolling through listings of nearby properties. That's when I remembered something. The marina, just 15 minutes from town, technically within her HOA's boundary, had been up for sale for the past year. The place used to be a hotspot back in the 90s but had fallen into disrepair. The elderly couple who owned it retired, and the place had been quietly listed, barely advertised. I knew the price was steep, but I also knew they were desperate to sell. I called the realtor before sunrise. "Yeah, I'm serious," I told him. "Cash. I'll come by with a wire transfer and paperwork. Just make sure no one else hears about it today." By noon, I was standing at the edge of the rundown marina dock. Seagulls circled overhead, paint peeled from the old boathouse, and the pier creaked with every step. But to me, it was perfect. Within 90 minutes, the marina was mine, lock, stock, and every busted dock. I even threw in a little extra to secure rights to the small connecting road that ran right alongside Karen's neighborhood entrance. I didn't stop there. I hired a professional landscaping crew, a mobile marina repair team, and 3 assistants to help me clean up the office building. By the end of the week, I had renamed the place Lakeview Royalty Yacht Club and made it look just modern enough to scare the life out of any HOA busybodies. But I saved the best part for last. I filed a formal zoning notice for commercial recreational activity right under the nose of Karen's HOA. Since the marina technically sat within their jurisdiction, any operation on that lake now had to adhere to my business rules. Oh, and just to rub it in, I added a huge billboard at the main intersection, now open to the public. Lakeview Royalty Yacht Club, sunset cruises, weddings, and loud music. Welcome. Karen drove by that afternoon in her pearl-white Lexus. She slammed the brakes so hard she nearly hit her HOA secretary's mailbox. Her jaw dropped when she saw the sign, "The Construction Crews," and me waving from my pickup. Her face turned 3 shades of crimson, and I was just getting started. It didn't take long before the HOA board held an emergency meeting right there in Karen's backyard, folding chairs, a cheap podium, and about 12 irritated residents all squinting at me across the fence like I was the second coming of chaos. I watched from my truck parked just outside the entrance, sipping coffee and pretending to scroll my phone. They didn't know I had already submitted my event calendar to the county: Friday night live jazz, Sunday boat rentals, and a monthly yacht and barbecue bash with an open mic. It was all legal. It was all happening. And it was all going to drive Karen insane. By the next weekend, the club was up and running. Music echoed across the lake, laughter bounced off the HOA homes, and party lights glowed deep into the night. Guests pulled into the new parking lot, stepping out in beachwear, sipping drinks, and snapping selfies near the newly painted dock that proudly displayed the club's motto, "Sail loud, sail proud." I had jet skis circling the lake by noon, pontoon tours running every hour, and a floating DJ booth playing throwbacks all day Saturday. People who hadn't touched water in years were suddenly buying day passes and asking about memberships. One lady even brought her chihuahua in a life vest. And then came the fireworks. Sunday night, just after sunset, I launched a full 12-minute display over the lake, synced to music, right when Karen's HOA newsletter said, "Quiet hours begin at 7 p.m. Phones rang. Lights came on across the shoreline. Karen stormed to the dock in her bathrobe, screaming about ordinances and noise pollution. Too bad the county sheriff came again, but this time he just tipped his hat and said, "Everything looks above board." Turns out, he'd brought his own family to the Marina earlier that day. Karen started a petition. No one signed it. She emailed the mayor. The mayor's office responded with, "We support small business growth." Finally, she cornered me in the parking lot one morning as I was overseeing a fresh shipment of paddleboards. "You think this is funny?" she hissed. "No," I replied, grinning. "I think it's legendary." Her lips quivered. "You're ruining everything we built." I leaned closer. "You tried to get me arrested over my yacht on my lake. You called the law for a petty power trip. This is just business." She walked away silent for the first time in her life. But little did she know, I had one final surprise left. The yacht club was booming. Within 2 months, we had over 400 paying members, an online booking system, and even a food truck rotation. The lake, once a sleepy body of water known only to locals, had turned into the county's hottest weekend destination. But the HOA? They were unraveling. Karen was losing grip. Residents were turning on her. Complaints poured in, not about me, but about her obsession with me. She'd hold meetings, but no one showed up. She'd patrol the sidewalks with her little clipboard, but all she got were eye rolls and slammed doors. Then came the last straw. A real estate agent approached me one evening while I was cleaning the deck of the yacht. He asked if I'd be interested in purchasing some additional property. "Where, exactly?" I asked. "Actually," he said, flipping open his tablet, "about 6 acres behind the HOA clubhouse, including the clubhouse itself. Apparently, the HOA's reserve fund dried up trying to fight your zoning permits. Now, they're forced to sell assets." I nearly choked on my lemonade. I told him I'd consider it. 2 weeks later, I signed the papers. And just like that, I owned the HOA's crown jewel, the land beneath their precious clubhouse, their private tennis court, and the scenic overlook where Karen used to host wine tastings. The HOA would now pay me rent if they wanted to keep using their own facilities. I renamed the clubhouse building, the Captain's Lounge, Private Events Welcome. Then I hung a sign below it, owned and operated by Lakeview Royalty Yacht Club. The first person to see it? Karen. She drove by, saw the new paint, the sign, and the construction crew tearing down the HOA's white picket fence. She didn't yell. She didn't storm out. She just froze. Her face said it all, her empire was gone. I walked up to her, sunglasses on, boots dusty from the ranch, and handed her a formal lease agreement. Monthly rent due by the 5th. No exceptions. She took it in silence. I told you, I said. You picked the wrong guy to mess with. She nodded slowly, turned around, and walked to her Lexus without saying a word. That was the last time I ever saw her near the marina. These days, I sail my yacht across the lake every weekend, not just as a man with a dream, but as a man who owns the waters, the docks, the roads, and even the land under the HOA's feet. All because Karen couldn't mind her business. If you loved watching HOA Karen get humbled, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another wild revenge story. Smash like, drop a comment with your favorite part, and tell me, what would you have done if Karen called the cops on your yacht?